Honorable Anite, and they're walking in with the famous briefcase that they're walking in with. Estimates are there, but we'll be giving you some of those numbers that are in there for you to be able to have some of the numbers that are there. But also, as you see the minister there, budget support is also increasing from 1.39 trillion shillings to 2.08 trillion shillings. That means more money is going into that, but also borrowing is increasing domestically. But also we have the World Bank that has also come on board. The 2-year ban has been lifted, but they have capped it on social services. That means education, health. Those are the areas that they're interested in. The other area that they said, that they mentioned that we're interested in, was refugees moving forward. They mentioned that we're interested in was refugees moving forward there. We also look at some of the numbers that are there, especially on the projection of where the budget has been growing in the last 4 years. The budget 4 years ago was 48.1 trillion shillings. It increased to 52.7 trillion shillings. This very financial year that we're drawing to an end is 72.1 trillion shillings, and now it will be growing to 72.3 trillion shillings, meaning we have a 3% increment, meaning more pressure for URA to collect money. If you look at the Uganda Revenue Authority, the President's State of the Nation's address, he said he will be putting more finances into it, especially to fight corruption, to encourage them with technology to be able to get them in that area there. But all that is to enable what is happening. I see the Honorable Wilson Kajrenje, the representative of the people of Nyabushozi. Yes. How are you, sir? It's good to see you, looking as smart as usual.
We thank God.
How are you, sir?
I represent the people of Nyabushozi.
Nyabushozi. I was on a video with them. Yes. They were wishing you all the best, and they're saying you should come back.
Yes, I'll be grateful if they do.
Your docket as the chairperson of Security and Internal Affairs, you have the biggest share. Why do you have the biggest?
Security and the defense.
The budget speech
combined
is a mandate given to His Excellency the President,
any development
and usually delegates it to his Minister
you
for
can
Finance.
Never ever have development that is not anchored on a firm foundation of security and
As
defense.
I mentioned earlier,
so
we
development, you
recognize
first
the arrival of the Right Honourable
deal
Speaker
with
of
security,
Parliament
with
and the Right Honourable
stability.
Deputy Speaker
Then
of
you
Parliament,
build any development
as
that
well
is
as
built on a
honourable
shake
members of Parliament,
foundation
honourable
certainly
ministers.
cannot be
We
sustained.
also have the
So
Vice
yes,
President
we vote
with us,
to make sure
the Second Deputy Prime
our
Minister,
UPDF
the
is
Third
very well
Deputy
equipped,
Prime Minister,
is very well
and Parliament
facilitated,
is more or less
has both
composed right
the
now.
weapon that they need, has the training that they need, have the skills that they require, are both on land, air, and otherwise. And even the digital part of it, that they are trained as a modern army to protect our boundaries, to protect our integrity, protect our borders, our territorial integrity. Now, once you have secured that, then
also
you build. Then you have projects like ECOP. Then you have projects like whatever project we are doing. That's why defense
of the Republic
and security
of Uganda
has a bigger share.
Honorable, 2 questions.
Justice.
Economic security, where is that? But also 2, are we at war? Why is your budget always increasing?
We also have
Apparently, the best way
the First Deputy
keep security is to
Chairman
keep
of
ready.
the National Resistance
You don't
Movement.
relax. And you have seen even worldwide, even countries that are considered
very
stable,
familiar with
their
parliamentary
defense
proceedings, having
budget
served
keeps
as
moving
Deputy
up.
Speaker
So that one there is no
of
doubt
the National
about.
Resistance Council.
The countries that
approximately
have
10 years.
faltered on that have had
Present with us, we also have
had it rough.
cultural
So
leaders.
there's no doubt about it.
I'm going to recognize.
Once the enemy of the Republic of
We have
Uganda
Royal
understands that you
Lieutenant
are
Colonel
weak in
retired
some areas, then
Martin
you are giving them a way to
Ayombi
enter and disorganize
Yomudinga
it. So to
wa
keep
Wamba,
ready
the king of
is
Wamba
to
Kingdom.
keep strong. And for our
We
mighty
also have present with
UPDF,
us His Royal
very well
Highness
trained,
Constantine Butamanya
very well
Mogezi,
trained,
the king of Burundi
very well
Kingdom,
fed,
and the
very well
chairman of the
equipped.
Uganda Kings and Cultural Leaders
Once you have
Forum.
secured that, you have
We also have His Royal
stability
Highness
that is
Paul
anchored
Sande
on a firm foundation.
Etiomeleng,
Honorable,
Of course,
Emolot, the Papa Iteso,
that is
the king of
supplemented
Teso
with
Kingdom.
the people that
Present with
the
us is
military
Right
defense
Honourable Ambassador
have to
George
be
Atim,
out of
the
poverty.
Secretary General
The people
of
have to
Uganda
share
Kings
on
and Cultural
an
Leaders
economy
Forum.
that is developed.
We also have
Today's budget
Robert
is on commercial
Obara,
agriculture, is
Omwene
on
Ngubwa,
security
Ngubwe
and
Kingdom.
defense, is on modernization of our health sector.
We also have His Royal Highness
human development.
Jude
And of course,
Mike
we still
Mudoma,
have a big chunk
Umukuka
of
III
paying our
of
debt.
Inju Yamasaba
Unfortunately, we are not yet
from
financially
Valley District,
secure as a country.
and
Until we
His
have our
Highness
oil,
Engineer Dr. Moses
we are still
Michael
borrowing
Odongo
to balance our
Onyachi
budget.
Melango.
Honorable, you talked about debt, but I'll come to debt in a little while. But agro-industrialization must be something that excites you, especially that milk is coming from your constituents. How prepared are you to export it to Algeria?
Thank you. You saw the first container being waved off by His Excellency the President to go to Algeria. Algeria is a $500 million market
now we have
for our milk.
a program that we are going
big.
to follow this afternoon.
Of course, that supplements the already existing milk products exports to the U.S., like Casein, to the Arab world, and all over Africa.
After
Nigeria
the official arrival
is looking
of His Excellency the
to
President,
buy our milk. His Excellency President Obasanjo, former President of Nigeria, came to Mbarara, looked at Pearl Dairy,
the national anthem.
And so we think
the national anthem
we are going to have a huge,
anthem.
Now that we have dealt
Then
with
we shall
FMD,
have the prayers,
now that we have suppressed and eliminated diseases that affect our cattle, we are going to export milk. And once we do that, my people of Nyabushozi will be well off. Because the market, once market is guaranteed, I can assure you they will also guarantee production. So agro-industrialization is at the heart of our economy.
Lastly, Honorable, you mentioned debt. We looked at the debt, it's at about 107 trillion shillings. We're going to be borrowing about 30 plus trillion shillings. That takes us to about above 53%. Isn't that a concern for you as a country, that our debt to GDP is high and we'll be borrowing at a higher rate?
Yes, I agree. I don't think any country enjoys borrowing. But for us to balance our budget, our needs, our development needs, our national development plan for our everything far outweighs our income. So we have to borrow. But we are looking forward to 2026.
Or it's something that is idealistic in the way we're handling some of these things. We look at minerals and we look at how gold has been growing from $2.7 million to about $2.7 billion to $3.7 billion there. That's an industry of minerals that is there. And the president spoke the last time and said they have quantified the minerals and they have asked them to be able to have them quantified. But he has also banned the export of minerals. But I'm joined by a honorable here. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How are you, sir?
I'm okay.
Your names, please.
My name is Baka Steven Mugabe. I represent Bukoli County North in Bujiri.
In the people of Bujiri.
Yes, sure.
So when you hear these ATMs, are you hopeful, especially for the people of Bujiri? Where do they fall in agro-industrialization, in tourism? It was the city, actually the whole Busoga region was the tourism hub because of the Nile. What does this mean for your people?
First of all, this is a budget for 2025-2026. Yes. It's an election year budget where we hope to capitalize on what we have already started. The issue of agro-industrialization is very critical to the people of Bujiri because as Bujiri, as we stand now, we already have so many factories, and SMEs. We have a sugar factory there, Bujiri Sugar, and so many other small-scale industries that have come up, processing maize, processing soybeans, processing coffee, value addition, and all that. They have all come up. And so on the pillar of agro-industrialization, this is a very big opportunity for us, and this budget has placed a lot of money in agro-industrialization. So we hope this money trickles down from the top to the people. Let the money trickle down to the sub-counties, first of all to the districts, to the sub-counties, down to the small-scale farmers who can be able to produce and feed into the agro-industries that are coming up. So we have a lot of hope in this budget, and it is our hope that the budget delivers on the promise to industrialize, to add value to our products. That's the only way we can create jobs. That's the only way we can get value for money for the farmers.
And Honorable, I'm glad you spoke about sugar canes. The amendment came out, the president ascended to it. What does that mean? But also there have been concerns about the pricing of sugarcane in your region, especially in Bujiri. What are you going to do, or what is this budget going to make different for the people to feel that 7%, 6% in their pockets?
What is most important about the law that we passed, that the president assented to, is that now there is a formula to determine how much a farmer sells their cane to the factories. That formula takes care of the cost of the farmer producing that cane, but also the output, that is the sugar, the molasses, the ethanol, and the power that is produced from the bagasse. And so all those factors are going to be counted in determining the cost, the price of cane that is going to be paid to the farmer. So overall, we have a lot of hope that the least we can get as per ton is 150,000. You know, the prices have sometimes fallen down to 80,000 to 90. So the least, according to the formula that is determined in that law, is 150,000. And with 150,000, a farmer can be able to break even. When the prices go high, it can even go to 180, sometimes 200,000. But with 150,000 per ton, a sugarcane farmer can be able to break even. That's what is important.
Honorable, my last one is the borrowing of government that you, as members of parliament, have allowed to go on. We just had a supplementary budget, and we're not consuming all that money. Your people in Bujiri would want money, purchasing power. How are you helping them to have more purchasing power, especially that government has moved from 8 trillion to 11 trillion in borrowing
in bulk? That's why we borrow, and then we are able to pay this money in piecemeal on a monthly basis to the people who have lent us. The second point to note is that even if we are borrowing, the GDP ratio to the debt is still sustainable. It is still below 50%. So
Honorable, it's now above 53%. It's 107 trillion shillings. That is going to become 135 trillion shillings. 56%. How is it?
The GDP ratio to the debt is what is important. It is below 50%. We are now at about 48%. So a ratio which is below 50% is sustainable for any country. Some countries, this ratio is about 100%. Our neighbors in Kenya, their ratio to GDP ratio to debt is over 70%. For us, we are still below 50%. But remember, we are putting this money in the most productive areas of the economy: agro-industrialization, tourism, and other areas which bring in money. The infrastructure projects like dams, like bridges.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Thank you for your time.
I wish the people a very good evening, a good afternoon as you watch the budget.
Thank you very much. So you have heard from the Honorable about the budget, but the concerns for every ordinary Ugandan is especially the borrowing of the government there, but also the undisbursed loans that government has borrowed and has not utilized, which comes to about $3.6 billion there, that is still in the coffers of Uganda's bank and not being utilized for the projects that it was alarmed for. We also look at what URA's shortfall is right now. URA has collected about 27 trillion shillings. Its shortfall is 4 trillion shillings. The question is, shall they be able to get it in time? To be able to get that 4 trillion shillings there in time. Honorable, good afternoon. How are you, sir?
I'm very fine.
You look as smart as usual.
Very good. I've come for the budget with a lot of expectations, so I have to be smart.
What do you expect from this budget?
First of all, President, as an executive for this country, he has to cut a cake today and give reasons why a certain region, a certain department or ministry has more share of the cake than others according to his scale of preference. So we are here to receive what the President has prepared for the next year. That's what we're going to receive today.
So when you look at this national cake, we have debt rollover, we have domestic arrears, and you members of parliament have given supplementary budgets. Are we prudent? Are we disciplined in our budgeting as a country? What can we improve?
First of all, the last time the President was here on the State of the Nation address, he said, I've addressed some issues, but I've raised some issues. And one of the issues he promised to address today is the issue to do with corruption. He's going to address corruption here. And of course, when you talk about corruption, we are talking about inequalities, including employment, that some people are employed, others are not employed, that some people have more income than others, that even some have more opportunities than others. But the most important thing, the President should talk about how he should first fight this corruption, because without corruption, we will not be able to equalize and give this cake in quality. So the best
Thank you very much.
things to do is talk about
Police
corruption
band
today.
and Uganda prisons ban.
What do you expect him to talk about corruption, and how can we deal with corruption as a country? 10 trillion shillings is lost in corruption every year. How do you hope he can deal with it? Is it possible to deal with it?
First of all,
bannange mami musanyufu nnyo anti olunaku lwa leero tuli luddawa tuli wano mu Kaleerwe bulungi ku baana wangu
banne Kampala Shaki Events bakutusaako mwana muwala Shakira Ninsima mu Kivulu Fathers in the Spotlight Saturday ngabire mu Lumwogo omukaaga Theatre Labonita mu Kampala wakati tunabeera mu Mataala anti Shakira Ninsima ye mwana muwala eyasookera ddala okuvayo okusiima bataata kati neno second edition golekeddwa Koda Evans ogateka abayimbi omuli Dax Vibes Carol Natongo Karo Kasita Ronald Maija Aziza Zion Levixon Bruno K Okero Tata Chibowa ne Chibowa ogateko ba MCs Kalera ne Kiswaka aya penatugweyo naffe tusiime bataata ng'okuyingira mitwalo 2 VIP emitwalo 5 VIP emitwalo 10 emmeza obukadde 3 abange teri kuranga kurala jangu otambulire ku red carpet ne taatawo anti wagenda kubayo n'okugaba ebirabo bingi ne awards eri bataata abanaasinga ngabere mu June ye Fathers in the Spotlight mu Theatre Labonita gatuwagiddwa
Ground TV 100% entertainment.
It's not enough. It has been over-consumed and it cannot sustain the pressure now. So we're optimistic that with that project from Ajera and then the intervention of irrigation, we should be able to have power and then to have water so that we can have enough production.
Thank you very much, Honorable. It's always a pleasure. So you have had, especially Mbara is looking forward to the agro-industrialization, especially earmarking themselves to the Algerian market to be able to deliver milk for the people that are there. But earlier on I was telling you, Uganda Revenue Authority has had a challenge with collection. They are in deficit of about 4 trillion shillings, and I also see a procession happening there, and I'm wondering, the president is almost arriving because they're there. So Honorable, it's good to see you. How are you?
Fine, thanks so much.
So my questions will be 2 and brief. Your expectations of the budget reading and your expectations of the president to talk about this national cake that is supposed to cut for us.
Now, first of all, this budget has been formulated over a period of time.
Yes.
And what we are looking at particularly is infrastructure development, tourism and agro-processing, and why not the improvement of wealth income, like for us, we're looking at partial development model. So we think that if they are strengthened, then the money will trickle down to our people. But mind you, with infrastructure development, for example, I come from Bududa, and our circular road has appeared in the papers, meaning if we have good roads, there will be interlinkage between the farmers and the market. So that's our hope. And we hope the president we hope he will talk about the mobilization of resources to control the leakages and prioritize the areas that we feel can touch the welfare of the people of Uganda. Particularly for me who come from Luteshe, I hope resettlement money will be there.
Thank you very much, Honorable. So you have heard from the Honorable there. As we look at the president who is about to arrive to come and be able to address us. He is the substantive Minister of Finance, but he delegates that role to the Minister of Finance, Honorable Matia Kasaija, who will be speaking about the breaking of that cake, the national cake that is put in there of 72 trillion shillings. We hope that the president, who will also expound on what he said last week, what he talked about as rationalization of government. What did he mean by that? But also the fears by the private sector that government is crowding into their space to be able to borrow the same amount of money with them in the market, where banks prefer lending to government than lending to the private sector. Also, with this risk, what does that mean? Are there alternatives for government to borrow? All this money that is unutilized, what is government planning to do? There are more questions than answers that we hope the president will be answering. Especially, he has said 1,200 people have been recruited in URA to be able to collect more money. That is the 37 trillion shillings that needs to be collected. Can it be achieved? Year over year, URA has fallen short of their collections there. Is this a year where they make a difference in their collection? But also, the debt rollover, the domestic areas, we have good news in there that it came from 200 billion to 1.4 trillion shillings, meaning that with 200 trillion, it would have taken us 54 years to pay all the people that have done business with government. But with 1.4 trillion shillings, we have between 10 and 15 years to be able to clear them. Hopefully we can do that. This anchoring of minerals and the quantification, the president has talked about the ban of selling raw materials of minerals, and they need to be done here. We need factories like that. What communication does he have in that area? We also have an area where we need the president to talk about the SGR. What does it mean? In terms of transportation, it brings the cost down. The cost of road transport is 3 times the cost of railway. So that means it brings that cost of transportation and goods. Shall that be felt in the pockets of the private sector, even as they bring in goods and services? Food is one of those things that tends to bite inflation. And the prices of food in the last few days, especially for the food that any ordinary Ugandan enjoys, beans, peas, has been going up. Will this food stuff be talked about? The Echida Chonka that he likes to talk about, that 33% that he needs to come into the market economy. What silver bullet does the president have to tell them to get them out of that area? But also, is it PDM that is one shoe fits all? That across the country, PDM can be able to solve every problem there. And also the other needs, the social services, education, and we talk about health. How is he going to talk about those things? Because many people are dying because of diseases that can be prevented or can be cured. We're still dying of malaria in this country. We still have very expensive hospitals for people to reach, but also hospitals or health centers are very far from areas in there. But also giving an example of what recently happened in Kabong, where parents prefer to take their children to the garden to work for the food and survive, rather than go on and have them go to school and have education there. On my extreme right, the president will be coming in and he will have a procession walking in. He will be received by the speaker and the deputy speaker, but also by the ministers of finance as he moves there. So you can look at my extreme left. I also see the president is coming in. I see the first lady is coming with him, and they are being received by a police guard that is there, and they'll be getting to us. They're being received by the speaker, the deputy speaker, and the whole entourage that is there to receive them. The IGP is also there, the representative of the defense is also there, and we're all waiting for the president to come here. And now I'll hand you over to the session that is happening, receiving the president now.
The sound you heard, the Beagles, are by the band. His Excellency is accompanied by the First Lady, Mama Janet Museveni. The President has the street guard parade that was mounted this afternoon, and now officially receiving him to Parliament for all ceremonial grounds is the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, Minister for Finance, who has a very key role this afternoon, as well as the administration of Parliament. The President going to be followed this afternoon and is very well known by honorable members of parliament. But just to guide our distinguished guests who are here, after the official signing of the registration book, as a welcome to His Excellency the President and Mama, the Speaker shall lead the procession to Parliament. Thereafter, we shall have the anthems, that is the Uganda national anthem, followed by the East African anthem. Thereafter, we shall have prayers, and then the Speaker shall proceed to proclaim the Kololo ceremonial independence grounds as the official precincts of Parliament of the Republic of Uganda. After that, she shall give her communication to the honorable members of Parliament present, and thereafter she shall invite His Excellency the President to give the budget speech. The President usually delegates this very key important role to his Minister for Finance, who is already present in the dais, soon to be the Chamber of Parliament, Honorable Matia Kasaija, who is also a Commissioner of Parliament. After that, the President shall give a speech after the reading of the official estimates expected to be utilized in financial year 2025-2026, and thereafter the House shall adjourn and it shall be a close of business for the day. This shall be witnessed through the anthems in reverse order, which shall be the East African anthem, followed by the Uganda national anthem, and thereafter the departure shall be in reverse order, which means the last person to arrive here today shall be the first person to depart. This is the second sitting of the first meeting of the 5th session of the 11th Parliament of Uganda, this Thursday afternoon, the 12th of June 2025. This session is the last session of the 11th Parliament, and the budget we are going to receive has been the last budget that will be utilized within this 11th, the term of this 11th Parliament, but it is the second last budget that is being made by the 11th Parliament. The last will be the budget for the financial year that will come next year, 2026-2027. That means Parliament of Uganda still has another budget to work on. His Excellency has concluded signing in the registration book, and now the Speaker shall bring us into the official business of Parliament. Thank you.
Honorable members, His Excellency the President and Madam Speaker.
The anthems. Prayers.
Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of humanity, we beseech you to look upon with your abundant favor these your servants, whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in this land. Let your blessing descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under that deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests you have committed to that church. Amen.
Amen. Item number 3, proclamation by the Right Honourable Speaker of the Parliament of Uganda.
Whereas Article 101, Sub-Article 2 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda states that His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, may, in consultation with the Speaker, address Parliament from time to time on any matter of national importance. Aware that His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, has, in accordance to Article 102, Sub-Article 2, indicated to the Speaker of Parliament his intention to address Parliament and the nation on the national budget for the financial year 2025-2026. Now, therefore, in accordance with Rule 18, Sub-Rule 1 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament, I hereby proclaim that Parliament shall sit at Kololo Ceremonial Grounds on Thursday, 12th, 2025 at 14 hours to receive the address of His Excellency the President on the national budget for financial year 2025-2026, and the Kololo Ceremonial Grounds to be the precincts of Parliament for the above mentioned purpose, given under my hand at Parliament House, Kampala, this 12th day of June 2025, signed by Anita Among, Speaker of Parliament.
Item number 4, communication from the Chair.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, accompanied by the First Lady, Mama Janet Kataha Museveni, who also doubles to be the Minister of Education and Sports, Her Excellency, the Vice President, retired Major Alupo Jessica Epel, His Lordship, the Honorable Chief Justice, Honorable Chigamoy Alphonse Owinyidolo, the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Thomas Tayebwa, the Right Honorable Prime Minister and Leader of Government Business, together with your deputies, the Right Honorable Leader of Opposition in Parliament, Honorable Joel Senyonyi, the Cabinet Ministers and Ministers of State, Your Excellency, the Commissioners, Ambassadors and members of the Diplomatic Corps, Honorable Members of Parliament of Uganda and the East African Legislative Assembly, the Vice Chairman of the National Resistance Party, Alhaj Moses Chigongo, members of the Central Executive Committee of NRM Party, the Secretary General of the National Resistance Movement, Right Honorable Richard Trodong, the former national leaders present, traditional and cultural leaders present, the religious leaders who are present here, the Inspector General of Government, IG, Honorable Betty Olive Namisango Kamia, the Chairperson of the Constitutional Commissions, the Head of Public Service and Secretary to Cabinet, Madam Lucy Nachobe, the Auditor General, Mr. Akol Edward, members of the Constitutional Commission, permanent secretaries present, the Chief of Defense Forces, General Muhosi, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Baz Byakagaba, the Commissioner General of Prisons, Dr. Canon Johnson, the Governor of Bank of Uganda, Dr. Tinyego, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to the second sitting of the 5th session of 11th Parliament. You may recall that last week on 5th June 2025, Parliament hosted His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, at the official state opening of the 5th session of 11th Parliament, during which His Excellency delivered a remarkable address on the state of nation. I take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda for fulfilling his constitutional obligation as enshrined in Article 101, Sub-Article 1 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. Today, we are once again immensely gratified to host His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, who is here to deliver the budget speech for financial year 2025-2026 in fulfillment of his constitutional obligation under Article 155, Sub-Article 1 of the 1995 Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, which states that the President shall cause to be prepared and laid before Parliament in each financial year, but in any case, not later than 15th day.
Every upgrade deserves a celebration, and Airtel has got you covered. Unlock happiness with double data from Airtel. Buy a new smartphone and get double your data every time you buy a weekly or monthly bundle. Dial *100*28# today to check eligibility. Airtel, a reason to imagine.
2015, the National Audit Act 2008, the National Audit Act, the Local Government Act 1997. This participatory budget process is an avenue of the citizen involvement in policy decisions, resource prioritization and allocation, and the monitoring of the public expenditure. As a people-centered parliament, we commend the various stakeholders for making their input in the national budget, and we urge them to sustain the civic awareness and responsibility during the actual budget execution and accountability as well. Your Excellency, the Parliament of Uganda is cognizant of the people participation as a cornerstone for deepening democracy, which is a standing governance principle for our beloved nation. Your Excellency and honorable members, allow me to highlight some of the key milestones achieved by legislature during the budget consideration process. Pursuant to Section 9, 5, and 8 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015 and Rule 145 of the Rules of Procedure, the House approved the National Budget Framework Paper 2025-2026, 2029-2030 on the 30th day of January 2025. 2. Pursuant to Section 12 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015 and Rule 152 of Rules of Procedure, Parliament approved a ministerial policy statement for financial year 2025-2026 during the period of 9th to 16th April 2025. Pursuant to Section 8 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015 and Rule 157 of the Rules of Procedure, Parliament passed 7 tax and revenue bills on 13th and 14th May to enable the realization of revenue to finance the national budget for financial year 2025-2026. In furtherance to Section 14 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015 and Rule 158 and Rule 159 of the Rules of Parliament, Parliament approved the national budget for the financial year 2025-2026 on 15th day of May 2025. Your Excellency, the efficiency and effectiveness of legislature is as a result of constructive engagement between legislature, executive and judiciary, as well as the relevant stakeholders. I take this opportunity to greatly appreciate all the honorable members of Parliament, the front bench, the shadow cabinet, and all the stakeholders for their dedication throughout the budgeting process and ensuring that we do not only meet the legal and constitutional timeline, but also adequately interrogate the budget. Your Excellency, without preempting your speech on this day, I would like to highlight the salient issues that arose during the budget consideration process. 1, the need to strengthen the oversight over wealth creation funds, notably the parish development model, the youth livelihood, UWEP, SAGE, so that the funds actually reach their intended beneficiaries and attain the desired impact. 2, to strengthen the implementation and oversight of high-impact projects under the NDP4, so that the intended objectives are achieved. These high-impact projects are what we previously referred to in NDP3 as the core projects. 3, to strengthen the commitment control in budget execution by compelling the accounting officers to commit to the actual budgets and work plans as approved. This is important for budget discipline. 4, the minimization of supplementary budgets and the need to adherence to Section 25(7) of the Public Finance Management Act 2015 to limit supplementary budget requests to items that are absorbable, unavoidable, and unforeseeable. 5, the need to adequately plan and resource efficiency management measures to address the prevailing debt burden. The need to increase public investment in productive growth areas such as EMIOGA, parish development model, the 4-acre prosperity model, and deepen the financial inclusion and aid the growth of taxable formal sector so as to widen the tax base and improve on the tax to GDP ratio. Your Excellency, in the spirit of fostering regional integration, Parliament is cognizant of the need for deliberate reforms in customs and migrations. These requirements and procedures are in order to eliminate the non-tariff barriers and ease the movement of people, goods, and services across the East African community. The need for deliberate intervention to enhance the human capital development as a way of strengthening the competitiveness of Ugandan population. Your Excellency and members, as we embark on financial year 2025-2026, I call upon the accounting officers to ensure the prudent efficient and effective utilization of public resources, and that is pursuant to Section 21 and 45 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015. Your Excellency and honorable members, Article 83, Sub-Article 2A of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda permits members of Parliament to leave and join political parties or political organizations of their choice within 12 months before the end of term of Parliament in order to participate in activities or programs for political parties or political organizations relating to the general elections. I am in receipt of notification from the following members of Parliament who have left the Forum for Democratic Change, FDC, and opted to join the People Front for Freedom, PFF. Honorable Semuju Ibrahim, MP Kira Municipality. Honorable Kabusu Moses, MP Chamuswa County. Honorable Nakato Asinansi, the woman MP of Hoima City. Honorable Kamara Nicholas Tadeos, MP Kabale Municipality. Honorable Katshabe Atkins Godfrey, MP Bukonjo County West. Honorable Mohindo Harold Tony, MP Bukonjo County East. Honorable Namanya Naboth, MP Rubabo County. Honorable Muijiche Francis, MP Buhesh County. Honorable Awol Betty Ochan, Gulu City Woman Member of Parliament. We extend our best wishes to the members as they exercise their freedom of association as enshrined in Article 29 of the 1995 Constitution that we sought to uphold. Your Excellency, the President, and honorable members, and distinguished guests, I say all this for God and my country.
Item number 5, presentation of the budget speech by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda.
Honorable members, I have been duly notified that the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development will deliver the budget speech on behalf of His Excellency the President, and thereafter the President will also give his remarks, additional remarks to what has been delivered. I now want to invite the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to deliver the budget speech. Honorable Minister.
Your Excellency, the President of Uganda, Your Excellency, the Vice President, Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, Your Lordship, the Chief Justice, Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Your Lordship, the Deputy Chief Justice, the Vice Chairman of the NRM Party, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, Right Honorable Deputy Prime Ministers, Honorable Ministers, Your Excellencies and the Ambassadors and the heads of diplomatic missions, Honorable Members of Parliament, former national leaders,
cultural leaders, religious leaders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Madam Speaker, in fulfillment of Article 155 Part 1 of the Constitution, and on behalf of His Excellency the President, I present to Parliament and the people of Uganda the budget for financial year 2025-26 as approved by Parliament. Madam Speaker, in this speech, I will, 1, provide accountability to the people of Uganda on the performance of the commitments made by the NRM government for the first half of the Uganda Vision 2040. 2, present the recent performance of the economy and outlook. 3, account to the people of Uganda on the commitments that government made for financial 24-25 that is coming to an end in a few days, and the private areas of the budget for financial 25-26. 4, highlight the financing strategy of the financial 25-26 budget. Now, accountability of the performance of the commitments made by the NRM government for the first half of Uganda Vision 2040. Madam Speaker, let me first congratulate His Excellency the President on his leadership that has built a resilient, stable, transformative, and competitive economy that is attractive to investors. Obugaro. Uganda is among the fastest growing economies in the world and is projected to become the fastest growing by 2031 according to the Harvard Growth Club. This is despite the various domestic, regional, and global shocks that have impacted us in the recent years. The growth is on account of a unique economic ideology championed by His Excellency the President, which is built on the 4 principles of socio-economic transformation, patriotism, Pan-Africanism, and democracy. Madam Speaker, the first half of Uganda Vision 2024 started in 2010 with the implementation of the first 5-year National Development Plan and thereafter NDP 2 and NDP 3, which ends this financial year. The initial years of the NRM government before 2010, we dedicated to restoring sustainable peace, recovering and stabilizing a broken economy, addressing extreme poverty, and implementing reforms that liberalized the economy and created an environment for private sector to flourish. We are now in the phase of socio-economic transformation to facilitate wealth creation and prosperity. Your Excellency, I thank and commend you for this. Madam Speaker, the budget for financial year 2025-26 will conclude the implementation of the current NRM manifesto and start the implementation of the 4th National Development Plan. For the next 15 years, the successive national development plans will implement the 10-fold economic growth strategy. This strategy aims to expand the size of the economy to US$ 500 billion by 2040 from US$ 61.3 billion estimated this financial year 24-25. Madam Speaker, over the accountability period, government has undertaken targeted investments that have built a firm foundation and strengthened the resilience of our economy. I wish to highlight the following achievements. 1. Total peace, security of person and property, political stability have been the foundation upon which sustained high economic growth and wealth creation to be built. 2. The economy more than tripled to shillings 226.3 trillion Uganda shillings, equivalent to US dollars 61.3 billion this financial 24-25, from shillings 64.8 trillion, equivalent to US dollars 27.9 billion in financial 2010-2011. In March 2024, Uganda met the criteria for graduation from the category of least development countries. Let me repeat this. In March 2024, Uganda met the criteria for graduation from the category of least development countries. 4. Life expectancy has improved to 68.2 years in financial year 23-24 from 63.3 years in 2010-11 and from 50.4 years in 2002. This has been partly driven by improvements in access to health services, massive immunization campaigns that reduce disease prevalence and child mortality. 5. The population living within a 5-kilometer radius of a health facility is now 91% from about 8% in financial year 2010-2011. And 81% of parishes now have government-aided schools. 6. Poverty has decreased by 16.1% in financial 2020-23-24 from 24.5% in financial year 2010-2011. In addition, Madam Speaker, persons in the subsistence economy reduced to 33% in financial year 23-24 from 69% in financial year 2010-2011. Madam Speaker, Uganda is becoming a more equal society. The results of the National Household Survey released by the Uganda Bureau of Statistics last month show that income inequality has declined significantly in the past 4 years. The Gini coefficient, which is a statistical measure used to determine the extent of income inequality within a population, has reduced to 36% from 41% in 2020. 8. Madam Speaker, Ugandans can now connect to all borders on tarmac and reach all parts of the country, east, west, south, north, by tarmac or improved mudam roads. 9. Installed electricity generation capacity increased fourfold to 2,051 megawatts in financial year 23-24 from 595 megawatts in financial year 2010-2011. Consequently, the proportion of the population with access to electricity increased fivefold to 57% in financial year 23-24 from 11% in financial year 2011. The percentage of the population subscribed to the internet rose to 53% in 2022 from 1.8% in 2010, and the national ICT backbone infrastructure extended to 4,300 kilometers in financial year 22-23 from 1,380 kilometers in financial 2010-2011. The economy has diversified from the traditional 3 C's, which are coffee, cotton, copper, and 3 T's, which are tobacco, tea, and tourism, to a more sophisticated economy. For example, Uganda has added 31 new products to its export basket in the last 15 years, including light manufactured products such as steel, processed food, cement, pharmaceuticals, dairy products, ceramics, and clothes. The number of manufacturing units factories of various sizes has increased by about 18,000 from 31,757 in 2010-2011 to 50,000 in financial year 2023-24. As a result, this has increased the share of manufactured exports significantly. Madam Speaker, Uganda's economy has been able to achieve all these milestones on account of the right strategy of the NRM government. Let me repeat. Madam Speaker, Uganda's economy has been able to achieve all these milestones on account of the right strategy of the NRM government. Madam Speaker, since the necessary foundation has already been established by intentionally prioritizing investments in infrastructure, the speed of economic transformation is destined to be faster in the medium term. Madam Speaker, the budget for next financial year and over the medium term is focused on people and wealth creation. Consequently, the theme of the next financial year 25-26 remains full monetization of Uganda's economy through commercial agriculture, industrialization, expanding and broadening services, and digital transformation and market access. Current recent economic performance and outlook. Madam Speaker, our economy has strengthened its resilience to domestic and external shocks and is estimated to grow by 6.3% this financial year 24-25. This is after recording growth of 8.6% in the third quarter of this financial year. Last financial year 23-24, the economy grew by 6.1%. In nominal terms, the size of the economy is estimated at shillings 226.3 trillion, equivalent to US dollars 61.3 billion in financial year 24-25, rising from shillings 203.7 trillion, equivalent to US dollars 53.9 billion in financial year 23-24. This is equivalent to US dollars 174.2 billion in purchasing power parity terms. My economists will tell you what that means. 12. Madam Speaker, this growth has broad-based, including this growth was broad-based, including in agriculture, industry, and services like ICT. This was on account of continued implementation of government interventions and sound fiscal and monetary policies that have supported private sector investment. Madam Speaker, the impressive economic performance has been driven by His Excellency the President's commitment and deliberate investment in wealth creation initiatives. I thank His Excellency the President for setting the tone and for providing leadership and direction. Madam Speaker, government has invested over shillings 9 trillion in key wealth creation initiatives over the last 10 years. These include Uganda Development Bank, 4.45 trillion, the Parish Development Model, shillings 3.3 trillion by end of financial year 24-25, Emioga, shillings 553 billion, the Youth Livelihood Program, shillings 207.95 billion, the Small Business Recovery Fund, shillings 100 billion, the Agricultural Credit Facility, shillings 495 billion, the Youth Venture Capital Fund, shillings 12.5 billion, Uganda Women Entrepreneurship Program, shillings 168 billion, the Invite Project, shillings 800 billion, the Grow Project, shillings 824 billion, and Uganda Development Corporation 1.2 trillion, among others. Madam Speaker, the economy is expected to grow faster by at least 7% next financial year 25-26, and to double digits at the onset of oil and gas production. The size of the economy is projected to expand to shillings 254.2 trillion, equivalent to US dollars 66.1 billion in financial year 25-26. This will translate into a higher GDP per capita of US dollars 1,000. Let me repeat this. This will translate into a higher GDP per capita of US dollars 1,324 next financial year compared to US dollars 1,263 estimated for this financial year ending the 30th June this year. Inflation. Madam Speaker, inflation is under control. For the year ending May 2025, the speed at which prices of goods and services rose slowed to 3.4% compared to 4.1% in the same period of the year ago. The slower pace of the increase in domestic prices was due to good export performance and FDI inflows, which led to a stable shilling, increased food production driven by good weather and the parish development model, and the close coordination of the fiscal and monetary policies. In addition, a reduction in the global prices of petroleum products also contributed to the lower prices. The country has been able to benefit from these lower global prices because of the direct importation of petroleum products by the Uganda National Oil Company, UNOC, which removed middlemen in the petroleum supply chain. Therefore, inflation is expected to remain below the policy target of 5% per annum. Now, exchange rates. Madam Speaker, despite global uncertainties, the Uganda shilling has been among the few most stable currencies in Africa. Can I repeat? Madam Speaker, despite global uncertainties, the Uganda shilling has been among the few most stable currencies in Africa. The shilling appreciated by 4% year on year in April 2025 compared to the same month in 2024. Uganda's shilling has been ranked the most stable currency in Africa according to the International Financial Statistics Division of the IMF. This resilience is due to good export performance, strong inflows of foreign direct investment, and tourism receipts. Now, interest rates. Madam Speaker, the price of money has reduced to an average of 17.7% per year in March 2025 from 18.1% in November 2024. This decline was partly driven by a slight reduction in the Bank of Uganda's reference interest rate and increased lending at lower interest rates to lower risk borrowers. Private sector credit. Madam Speaker, the stock of private sector credit grew to shillings 23.3 trillion in March 2025 from shillings 21.9 trillion in June 2024. This represents growth of 6%. Although this is low, it is expected to increase as private sector activity and household demand continues to recover. Madam Speaker, contrary to conventional economics that government borrowing crowds out private sector credit, Uganda's government borrowing has instead availed cheaper and patient capital to the private sector engaged in wealth creation initiatives. Government borrows from commercial banks at relatively high rates and avails financing to the private sector in strategic sectors at relatively low or no interest rates. Government has provided direct credit to the private sector and household to supplement credit from commercial banks and other financial institutions through PDM, Emyoga, Youth and Women Livelihood Funds, Women Enterprise Support Funds totaling shillings 9.1 trillion, which is equivalent to 3.6% of total domestic economic output in financial 24-25. External sector development. Madam Speaker, total exports of goods and services for the 12 months of March 2025 is US dollars 11.84. Of this, exports of goods were US dollars 9.3 billion for the same period, up from 7.3 billion in March 2024, representing growth of 26%. The top exports include gold, US dollar 3.698 billion, coffee, US dollars 1.83 billion, which alone had an annual average growth of 84.9%. Industrial products, 626.5 US dollars million, cocoa beans, US dollars 410.8 million, milk products, US dollars 285 million, base metals and products, US dollars 230.6 million, sugar, US dollars 186.5 million, fish and fish products, US dollars 107.7 million, maize, US dollars 86.37 million, and other agricultural products like tea, tobacco, cotton, beans, fruits, vegetables, flowers, simsim, sesame, nuts, vanilla, and other grains, giving US dollars 575.9 million. Madam Speaker, this financial year, for the first time in the history of Uganda, coffee exports earnings not only exceeded the $1 billion mark, but are on track to double to US dollars. While it took the country more than a century to reach US dollars 1 billion earnings per annum from coffee, it has taken just 1 year to double these earnings. This is an example of the kind of economic leap envisioned under the tenfold growth strategy. I therefore implore Ugandans to grow more coffee and, most importantly, add value to our coffee before we export it for higher earnings. Madam Speaker, for the year ending March 2025, the Middle East was Uganda's top export destination, followed by the East African Community, Asia, and the European Union. Uganda recorded large trade surpluses with the Middle East worth US dollars 186.3 million and the European Union worth US dollars 117.7 million. The main export commodities to these markets were coffee, industrial, and mineral products. Madam Speaker, I wish to note that His Excellency the President, Madam Speaker, I wish to note that His Excellency the President's message and deliberate strategy of increasing the share of manufactured exports in total exports has started producing positive results. New research by the Harvard Economic Growth Lab shows that Uganda has become more complex for its level of income. This means that while earnings from traditional exports like coffee are significantly increasing, their contribution to the total export basket is declining. New products that require more advanced production technology than that expected for our level of income are contributing an increasing share of our total exports. According to the study, in the last 15 years, Uganda added 31 new products to its export basket. Among these are ICT equipment, serums and vaccines, medicines, new pneumatic tires, batteries, gas turbines, electric integrated circuits, transmission apparatus for radio, telephone and TV, measuring instruments and instruments for physical and chemical analysis, and light manufactured products such as steel, processed food, cement, pharmaceuticals, dairy products, ceramics, and cloth. The country also has an opportunity of harnessing the production of 50 new complex products which are referred to as strategic bets. Tourism and foreign direct investment. Madam Speaker, tourism earnings have grown by 13.1% to US dollars 1.52 billion in 12 months to March 2025 from US dollars 1.36 billion during the same period in 2024. This impressive growth is attributed to the sustainable peace, increased competitiveness of Uganda's tourism industry, and government investment in strategic tourism infrastructure, including Uganda Airlines. Remittances from Ugandans living and working abroad were US dollars 1.4 billion 12 months to March 2025 compared to US dollars 1.33 billion in the same period in 2024. Madam Speaker, Uganda has maintained its top ranking as one of the best investment destination in Africa. Let me repeat this. Madam Speaker, Uganda has maintained its top ranking as one of the best investment destination in Africa. Foreign direct investments were worth $3.4 billion in 12 months to March 2025, compared to $2.99 billion during the same period in 2024. This performance was due to improved competitiveness of our economy. Fiscal performance. Madam Speaker, revenue collection is projected at shilling 31.9 trillion this financial year ending June 2025, equivalent to about 14.3% of total domestic economic output, or GDP. Total expenditure outturn is estimated at shillings 51.53 trillion this financial year, excluding Bank of Uganda securities and domestic financing date rollover. The budget deficit is estimated at 7.2% of GDP. Madam Speaker, government plans to collect shillings 37.2 trillion in domestic revenue next financial year 25-26. This will finance about 60% of the national budget. The rest of the budget will be financed through borrowing and grants. Madam Speaker, government has stepped up efforts to mobilize domestic revenue. Going forward, emphasis will be put on the following. 1. Broadening the tax base through strategic investment in the opportunities in agro-industry, tourism, minerals, including oil and gas, science, technology, and innovation, including ICT, as well as interventions that support wealth creation and the growth of small and medium enterprises. Eliminating corruption at URA through punishing corrupt officers and taxpayers. Who collude with URA staff, as well as leveraging digital platforms to minimize human interaction. 3. Enhancing implementation of electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solutions, which is corporation EFRIS, digital tax stamps, rental tax solution, and regular audits, especially for transfer pricing. Combating smuggling at border points through extended surveillance using advanced technologies like scanners, drones, and tracking systems, with increased patrols in high-risk areas. Rationalizing tax exemptions to focus on only those that support industrial policy and introducing sunset clauses. Amending tax laws to close loopholes that cause revenue leakage and providing clarity to encourage voluntary compliance. Strengthening URA including recruitment and training of tax officers to effectively administer tax collection, and supporting local governments and revenue generating public entities to increase revenue collection. Accountability for financial 24-25 and priorities for the financial 2025-26. Madam Speaker, when I delivered the budget speech for financial 24-25, I made several commitments on government expenditure priorities for the financial year. In February 2025, I presented a detailed semi-annual budget performance report of this financial year to Parliament in line with the law. In this section, I provide the highlights of what government has achieved this financial year to date. Madam Speaker, with respect to investing in people of Uganda, the following has been achieved. Let me repeat. Madam Speaker, with respect to investing in the Uganda, the following has been achieved. Health. Madam Speaker, during this period, this financial year 24-25, the following milestones have been achieved in the health sector. 1. Government continued to invest in saving the lives of Ugandans by providing shillings 721 billion for healthcare supplies, general and essential medicines under the national medical stores. This included additional financing of shillings 100 billion for essential medicines, shillings 116.8 billion for RRVs, shillings 2.9 billion for anti-malaria medicines, shillings 17.8 billion for immunization supplies, and shillings 52.3 billion for laboratory supplies, and shillings 2.1 billion for anti-TB drugs. Government continued to improve healthcare infrastructure and equipment. For example, we completed, equipped, and commissioned 3 regional blood banks in Hoima, Arua, and Soroti. Operationalized 16 high-capacity oxygen plants across key regional referral hospitals. Continued infrastructure development and equipping of the 2 specialized centers for cancer and cardiovascular care. Infrastructure development of Ruvoa Specialized Hospital is now at 68% progress, and training of the specialists is ongoing. Constructed new maternity wards and the staff houses in the health center 2s that are being upgraded to health center 3s. Distributed 20 digital X-ray machines to general hospital disease prevention and promotion of healthy lifestyles. For example, trained and deployed community health extension workers across the country to deliver essential health education on hygiene, and took residual spraying in 13 districts, which protected the lives of 2.7 residual spraying in 13 districts, which protected the lives of 2.7 billion people and 560,000 households against malaria, and introduced the malaria vaccine into the extended program on immunization targeting children under 5 years. Improved the digitization of healthcare services by system in 4 national referral hospitals and 16 regional referral hospitals. This has improved patient record management, drug dispensing, and monitoring the attendance of health workers. Strengthened the national ambulance and emergency care system by providing additional ambulances to improve the 5-point health centers 4s 2. Strengthening primary health care and community health services. 3. Scale up of national e-health infrastructure. 4. Promotion of nutrition and education and reproductive health. 5. Continued deployment of community health extension workers. 6. Specialized health facilities for cancer and cardiovascular care. 1. Provided access to universal primary education, universal secondary education.
Minister for...
And I close that one. 2. Over 5,192 students, both diploma from higher education students loan financing scheme. In addition, 4,000 learners benefited from government sponsorship joining public universities. 3. A total of 166 seed schools have been constructed under the UGFID program. 4. In preparation for CHAN and ACFON 27. In addition, Mandela National Stadium has been upgraded, and government commissioned the National High Altitude Training Center, Teriyet, in Kapchorwa. In order to improve compliance with quality standards, government digitized digital vocational education and training in school vocational education and training institution. To improve the qualifications and skills of primary school teachers to meet the education requirement of degree level, government has established the Uganda National Institute for Teacher Education, students across 5 campuses, and has been supported to undertake staff recruitment and take over the operation competence-based curriculum for A-level. A total of 357 120 learners successfully completed the 4-year cycle under the new lower secondary educational curriculum and are transitioning to the new A-level curriculum. Implemented the TVET reform to increase industry participation in TVET training and delivery. 4,228 youth enterprises have been funded to 274,211 youth.
271,211.
I have read it wrong. Let me repeat. Services 19% and others 11%. Uganda Women Entrepreneurship Program, WEP. Government has financed 21,000 235 million, no, yes, 114 women. National special grant for persons with disability to address high vulnerability and poverty levels among persons with disability. Government has supported 8,107 enterprises benefiting to 50,900 person.
59,901.
59,000 for social protection and for social protection next financial year 2025, next financial year 2025-26. Water, sanitation of life. Water, sanitation of life. Of solar packages that is ongoing in Loslang, Kasao, Phase 1, new piped water supply systems in Rwanda, Kabale, are 6.1 billion next financial year for water resource management, climate change mitigation, natural resources, and environment. The priority interventions include construction of water supply infrastructure to increase service in the underserved communities in rural, urban and refugee settlements, and increasing forest and wetland cover. Madam Speaker, overall, I have allocated a total of shillings 11.44 trillion next financial year towards investing in the people of Uganda through health, education, social protection, and water and sanitation. Now,